I'm Jill McManus, and my capstone presentation is on how sleep affects performance, and my advisor was Miss Ray. I chose this topic because starting off my high school career as a freshman, I really struggled with time management and how sleep played into that. Sophomore year, though, I took Mr. Dowling's biology course, and he would always repeat constantly that 8 to 10 hours of sleep was very important for your overall health, and he would always say that, prioritize getting 8 to 10 hours of sleep because it helps your health. And I was really confused at this time, but how do I factor that into my schedule and my own individual life? But I did manage to do it, and the benefits that I had mentally and physically were amazing. So when it came time to pick a topic, this is what I chose because of that reason. So what is sleep? The term sleep is essential to the functions and the daily lives of all human beings, no matter what, despite any differences that we might have. It is vital in order to function. All living things have a daily cycle that is driven by an internal body clock. For us humans, this body clock is known as the circadian rhythm. It is important to note that during this rhythm, there are 3 phases: light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. REM sleep is rapid eye movement, and it occurs 90 minutes into our sleep cycle. It takes up 25% of our sleep, and this is where dreams occur. It is also where most of our benefits of sleep occur because it helps us store information, and that helps us later to recall information. This is an example of what one would look like: restorative sleep, which is also known as light sleep, and then there's deep sleep, REM sleep, and the cycle keeps going. Notice here how after 6 o'clock a.m., maybe around 7 o'clock, depending on your individual cycle, melatonin release stops. Melatonin is our sleep hormone, and this is what makes us tired at night. For example, see, melatonin release starts. It is important to note that here, when it stops, that's when we start to wake up, because obviously we are less tired. This book, Peak Performance, is the basis of most of my research. It's by Stolberg and McManus. Stolberg is a performance coach, and he's a writer, and Steve McManus is a coach at the University of Houston. So obviously he works with a bunch of athletes. Their major theme was stress plus rest equals growth. They came up with this formula despite research in this book, including data and other things along those lines. Sleep deprivation was also a major theme. Sleep deprivation affects your mind, and it affects your mood, affects your reaction time, which makes you more prone to accidents if you have less sleep, and it also affects your judgment. The major thing that I took for this is sleep is when your body heals, which factors into their equation: stress plus rest equals growth. No matter if you're stressing your body as an athlete, like physical stress, or no matter if you're stressing your body academically through daily routine, or it's important to have rest in order to grow as a person and as for your health. Sleep and physical health. So sleep contributes to a lot of your physical health, and weight management is one of them. This is because of our hormonal output, including the appetite hormone, ghrelin. So this affects whether you choose the healthy option, for example, fruit or vegetables, or you choose the unhealthy options, such as chips or junk food. And this is because when you're sleep deprived, you're more likely to choose the unhealthy option, which would contribute to weight. Most of the common symptoms are fatigue, mood changes, memory problems, even just staying awake in general, and concentration. And then in more extreme cases, paranoia and hallucinations. Physical health, just talking about physical health, it also contributes to temperature regulation and immune response in general. This is because this came from one of my sources, Houlihan. The process of sleep equips the body to fight off a wide variety of afferents from colds, infections, and other common diseases. This proves, and among other things, that immune response is a direct factor of your sleep and your relationship between sleep and physical health. Also in athletes, like I was saying before, Stolberg and McManus from Peak Performance quoted, "The best athletes in the world all prioritize sleep just as much as they prioritize their hardest training sessions and their most important competitions. At first glance and at the surface, this seems kind of insane. You think like the more you train, the better you would be. But no, just like the formula, stress plus rest equals growth. It's important. And no matter how much stress you get, it's important to get that same amount of rest. This is why squeezing in workouts are not beneficial to help you, because this was a conclusion to Brad Stulberg's study on 40 world-class athletes. All of these athletes had different sports, were in different sports, and they had different diets. Some of them focused on like a red meat diet, some of them were vegetarian, and some of them did things like yoga to help them. But the main thing that all these successful athletes had in common was sleep. This is because the catabolic state and the anabolic state. So catabolic is the state when you're stressed, and the anabolic state is the state when you're well rested. This is why when you're squeezing in workouts, it's not going to work, because your body is way too overstressed and it doesn't get this anabolic state. Sleep and mental health. At first glance, this seems pretty obvious that sleep affects your mental health. Obviously, the less you sleep, the more like your mood changes, the more crabby you are, etc. But sleep helps make sense of your emotions because it allows you time to process them. During our sleep cycles, light, deep, and REM, rest is happening, so it helps us, just like any other type of information, like ability to recall information, emotions are processed. There was a study done actually at Clemson University, and it talked about self-control. They found that people that had more sleep made healthier decisions. It was easier for them to break bad habits, and it helped them obviously with impacts, self-control. Sleep deprivation. So there was a study at Northwestern University, and basically this is what I was talking about earlier with the olfactory system and choosing the healthy option versus the unhealthy option. So the goal of this study was, why do we crave these calorie-dense sources, or why do we want these high-fat foods when we're sleep deprived? And they found it's because your brain sends weak signals when you're sleep deprived. So sleep is vital for your brain function. This is because your piriform cortex and your insular cortex get this signal first, so when you're tired, it's weak. Sleep deprivation also leaves physical signs on your skin. Wrinkles. It also leaves your under eye bags to be more defined and more dark. And it also contributes to obesity and diabetes. This is because of the metabolic changes that cause you to store more fat easily are not functioning properly when you're sleep deprived. William Dement at Stanford University actually conducted a study, and he called it the promise of sleep. Basically here he explained that no matter amongst all the benefits of getting good proper amount of sleep, the best by far was life expectancy, because there's not a better reason to get better sleep. You literally live longer. It's proven in his study that life expectancy is longer when you get better sleep. Obviously, homeostasis is a biological term, and it's one of the major themes of biology. Too much sleep is a bad thing. So Harvard University conducted a study on women and how the amount of sleep they get can impact their health. So women who consistently slept 6 hours had an 18% greater risk for a heart attack than women who slept the recommended 8 hours of sleep. When they slept 5 hours, which is only an hour less than the last time, the risk for suffering a heart attack jumped to 39%. This is a major increase. However, keep in mind, with homeostasis, women who slept 9 or more hours nightly also increased their heart attack risk. Sleep and academic links. So sleep is crucial for memory. Like I was saying earlier, it helps with brain function. So this happens within your deep sleep. And Stickgold, which is a man that Stulberg and McManus talk about in Peak Performance, conducted a study and had 3 groups immerse themselves in the computer game Tetris, playing for 7 hours a day, 3 days straight. The one group came out and were able to recall playing the game. Then the second group was very familiar with it, but as the amount of sleep they got decreased, the last group literally could not remember playing the game at all and literally had amnesia. This experience shows that this deep sleep stage is crucial because it saves our energy and rests our body in order to retain information in our sleep. This is why when in academics, in your academic studies, when you're about to study or you have a big test coming up, like a standardized test like ACT, SAT, it's so important to get the proper amount of sleep, which is 8 to 10 hours, that night before, because your ability to recall information is going to be so horrible if you don't. Naps. So naps are a coping mechanism for not getting the proper amount of sleep. They actually can leave you feeling a lot more exhausted when you wake up, which is why they're kind of dangerous. However, a nano nap, which is 10 minutes, which is defined as 10 minutes, and a 20-minute nap actually boost your alertness and your concentration, which is a great thing. However, anything longer than that leaves you feeling way more tired. How society affects our sleep. So in our day and age, we use technology pretty heavily in our daily lives. The problem with this is blue light. So blue light is this type of light that sends short wavelengths into our eyes, which allows our brains to think light, 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 which is an issue because in our circadian rhythm, light is what we wake up to, if you think about it. This is what, and it also affects, it's because of our sleep hormone melatonin. Because once we see this light, it increases our alertness and we're not going to want to go to bed, which contributes to sleep deprivation. I also did research on shift workers, and now shift workers can also be known as night workers or the night shift. I focus on nursing. So in these they conducted a study, and overall the level of night shift factor accepting performance of professional nurses was a high of 79%. This means their ability to recall information was very horrible. Their ability to literally function as individuals was horrible. This is because their circadian rhythm was thrown off, which is very dangerous, especially if you think about people working in the health field. If they're not being able to have a reflex time or their ability to recall information is delayed, that's a really big issue, especially if you're working in the health industry. Caffeine is another thing. A lot of teenagers drink caffeine. Actually, 75% of students reported drinking at least one caffeinated beverage daily through the National Foundation of Sleep's experiment. So caffeine is so dangerous, and obviously one drink a day is okay, but caffeine can become addictive just like a drug can become addictive, which is why it's so dangerous. This actually can be diagnosed as caffeineism. So this is because caffeine increases our adrenaline and affects our alertness, concentration, and mood. But too much, which can be a good thing, but too much caffeine can make us have insomnia and anxiety, which is why caffeineism is basically a type of anxiety or disorder. Drowsy driving. This is so important for recognition because a lot of people wouldn't even think of this. Getting behind the wheel on 4 or 5 hours of sleep is just as dangerous as driving drunk. This is from Barnett. So this is because our cognitive capacity, decision-making process, and our reaction time are all delayed and horrible when we're behind the wheel. Well, in any circumstance, but when we're behind the wheel especially. So the American Automobile Association, the AAA, found that 35% of U.S. drivers get less than 7 hours of sleep. 5 to 6 hours left drivers almost twice as likely to be involved in a car accident. That is dangerous itself. However, 4 to 5 hours meant that the driver was 4 times more likely to get involved in an accident. Keep in mind that that's just an hour difference. Driving on less than 4 hours of sleep increased the crash risk by nearly 12 times. To see how my information affected me in the real world, I conducted a survey on DLS students. So one of the questions I asked was, how much sleep do you get? It's important to note here that a lot of them said 51.4% of them said 5 to 7 hours. That is less. Half of them sleep less than they're supposed to, which is such an issue. 27% of them said less than 4 hours, which is even worse. So keep in mind, this is all the people in DLSL who are not getting the proper amount of sleep. And that affects their mental and physical health, keep in mind. So then I asked, how often do you sacrifice sleep to study? And 54.1% of them, which is half of them, said more than 3 times a week. That's an issue because our academic studies are becoming more important than our physical health. And 32.4% of them said less than 3 times a week, which, okay, but then 13.5% of them said never, which is also alright, but keep in mind, almost half of them said that they sacrifice sleep to study, which really isn't benefiting them in the long run because their ability to recall information is not going to be good. I also asked, do you regularly experience sleepiness throughout the day? And way more than half of them, 81.1% of them said yes, they experience sleepiness during the day. So how are we supposed to better our cognitive skills if we're half asleep throughout the day? So this leads me into how do you get good sleep, because these issues can be fixed. Exposure to natural light during the day, so important. Exercise, limited caffeine intake, limited blue light exposure, meditation, staying off your smartphone before bed, and refrain sleep as something productive. People need to optimize their routine for better sleep, because without it, we literally can't vitally function. Conclusion. Like I said, sleep is vital for our all-around health, mental and physical health. Drowsiness affects our lifestyle and the way we perform day-to-day tasks, which is why sleep is so vital. Sleep also helps prevent burnout and is vital for our brain function. And my conclusion overall, stress plus rest equals growth. The more we stress our bodies, the more rest we should get to better obtain good health. And these are my references.